Hey guys, Primal Chaos here. Welcome to the channel. Wow, you guys really like Jinjer. I posted a video of Vortex yesterday, and it's already had over 1,000 views and over 60 comments. So yeah, you guys seem to like it, and I've had nothing but a flood of requests for just about every other piece of material that they do. One guy named Brian Wright suggested I do Mediator. And then someone else said, yeah, you should listen to Brian. And then someone else said, yeah, Brian knows what he's talking about. And it went on and on and on. And so this one's for Brian Wright. Thanks, buddy. Here we go. Wow.
Stop. Go.
Very cool. That blast beat. Okay, I gotta not let this get too far away from me. There's so much going on. It's just chaos. Wow. Okay, first of all, video clip looks great. I love the energy, the way they move. And they're not a band that sort of jumps around a lot. I mean, from what I can see, you know, the same way as, say, a lot of other, like, metalcore bands do with, you know, the way that they move and stalk around and stuff like that. And so they have a unique way of moving, which allows them to still competently play this intense music. So whoever directed, or the cinematographer, is moving the camera in such a way that it sort of makes them cross paths with each other, and it looks like there's a lot of movement energy on screen, which is really cool. And also just the first shot you see of her where it spins around her, it just looks like she's a stalking animal, which is fucking cool. But musically, every time a blast beat comes on, I literally can't, I stop critically thinking. I can't think of anything to sort of put forward there. But so far, I just love the energy. Well, I can't even remember what happened at the start of the song. We're going to have to go back. We'll have to go back into time. Let's check it out. Oh, by the way, I love the stop go part. That was really cool. Good rhythm.
Stop. Go.
That's so fucking cool. Down, 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 down. So that time I heard a little bit more. I love what the bass and the guitar are doing. First of all, just through this part where the vocals are, there's just really good choice of use of the scale to make that riff, to sort of make it sound disjointed. The rhythms make it sound disjointed too, but it's just this, again, I keep saying, this sort of off-kilter kind of energy to it that sort of makes you feel a little bit uneasy, which is really interesting because I had a quick look through the lyrics to begin with. And it's a really positive song. Like, I mean, in a way. So it seems like she's assessing the world around her and finding a lot of room for improvement. But it's optimistic in the way that it's structured. You know, my wish would be to see the sun shining, to hear the birds singing, children laughing, hearts recovering, etc., etc. But that's not the world we live in. And then it goes on to say, I wish I could catch God by the beard, which is great imagery. and drag him through the dirty streets to show him what was going on. The kind of curse we've waged upon. So yeah, everything could be better, but it's like, rather than sort of revel in that sort of, misery, she's pointing out what could be better, and the wishes that that's the way that it would be. And I think that's really interesting, because the music sounds uneasy. And I guess that sort of, reflects that sort of energy of like, the world there's plenty of room for improvement in the world. But the guitar and bass are doing something pretty interesting too. They're pretty locked in together on this one. I can't quite make out the notes enough to see. It seems like they might be playing roughly the same thing, but at the same time, the bass makes some different choices here and there, possibly to do with just the ease of playing the notes. Sometimes on bass, because it's such a wide stretch, you can't play the exact same thing as a guitar can do. So you'll make a few artistic choices to sort of make the pattern a little bit easier to play for yourself. Not that I think this guy needs shortcuts. I'm just saying it's impractical to match things 100% a lot of the time. Just because the sheer size of the bass's fretboard, it means that you can't get around as quickly, But yeah, like, let's keep going. Nice. Good note. Just really good syncopated riffs. Really cool. Not only can she scream, but she has an amazing tonal quality to her scream, and you gotta admire that. That's really cool. Yeah, there's a lot of sort of djenty, sort of jazzy elements to this musically. I mean, it seems like nothing just sits on the 4/4. Like, you just can't have like a groove that's just 1, 2, 3, 4. Everything's got to be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. You know what I mean? There's all thing, and to me, that's what really tweaks me. That I love that stuff, right? So this is, again, you guys have come through for me. This is right up my alley. Hang on, let me jump back a little bit, because I just want to hear those riffs again. Also, like I said, I haven't seen much of Jinjer, but it seems like Tatiana's got a very different vibe in everything I've seen. I can see why this might be a fan favorite. That's interesting, actually. When you produce a scream, the way I understand it, again, I'm not a vocal coach, and I'm not any kind of vocal technician. It seems like you pretty much don't try to pitch it. You sort of aim for the place where that particular sound comes out of your throat the easiest. And "row" is about where she sits, which is about where I sit for that sort of, upper sort of, not a super high scream, but just a regular sort of, this is my rhythmic pattern kind of verse kind of scream that's not super down low or super high. It's just raw. It's just that main energy. I would have suspected that she may have had like a higher placement of that, which is, again, I the physics of it and stuff like that, I'm not an expert, and maybe someone can fill me in on sort of how that works. But it seems like people will typically place a scream where it's most comfortable, and hers is lower than I thought it would be. And again, her singing voice isn't it? She's not a super high. Doesn't sound like a soprano or anything. Maybe a mezzo or a tenor or something. Not a tenor, an alto. the names just escape me right now, but you know, she doesn't have a super high piercing soprano voice, so maybe that's got something to do with it. I don't know. Maybe that's got something to do with her ability to do it as well. But yeah, just an interesting little thing I noticed. Cool. Bass player's playing a Steinberger style bass, which basically means Steinberger pioneered guitars and basses back in the 80s that don't have a headstock, which is this part. They basically chop this whole part off and you just end up with the neck finishing here. And as you can see, you don't typically really need these, because on these particular guitars that have like a floating tremolo, the strings get locked down by these clamps anyway, so they can't move. And the way that you do that is you tune them with these little fine tuners down here. Like you tune the strings, you lock the strings down here, and then you fine tune them here. The difference is with the bass, like what he's playing, the tuners down the bottom are much more robust. They, you know, these are designed for tuning it a few cents in either direction. His ones, you can tune the entire string. The problem I find with Steinberger guitars is, to me, they always feel weighted incorrectly. It always feels like the guitar's bottom heavy, which it doesn't seem like this much weight should be a factor, but I've always found them to feel weird. And also the other thing too is when you sort of move it around, there's always like a natural stopping point there for your hand to sort of hit like a low F or whatever you tune to, or you know, or a low E. You always sort of know where the end point is, but with Steinberger guitars you tend to go whoop. So that's something a little bit strange. It's an odd choice, you know. I can see he doesn't always use them. I'm looking at like the band. This is Eugene. I'm looking at the band images of each of the players up on my screen, and live he's playing a completely different bass. But yeah, just an interesting little anecdote about if you're wondering how that bass works.
I want your neighbor, not a hater. Run, don't go round. From what was no, I want.
Nice. It's a whole different song now.
What was going on? That kind of cosmic waste of
It really seems like Tatiana's the kind of person in this video that you wouldn't want to meet in a dark alley. She looks like trouble. And I watched an interview with her a while back after I saw the video for Pisces when that went viral and stuff like that. And just out of curiosity, I watched an interview with her. And if you ever want to really get to the core of who these vocalists are, check out Tea Time on the Charismatic Voices channel. Elizabeth interviewed her for, I guess, an hour or more. And she's such a sweetheart. She's really quiet, well-spoken. She just has a charming energy as well. I find a lot of these people do, actually, which is kind of interesting. But, you know, zero attitude. You know, it's all just like, you know, I don't know how I do it. It's just something I can do. And all this sort of, you know, blah, blah, blah. But I just find, you know, that sort of... what's the word I'm looking for? The duality of her two personas. You know, she's this sweetheart, nice human being on one hand, but then you give her a microphone and put her in front of the band and the energy changes, and I really dig that. See, this chick got into a lot of fist fights in high school. You know what I'm saying?
What do we have to do to
So that's a high scream, right? It's funny, a high scream isn't all that much higher than a regular scream. It's interesting. I got to go back musically. There's just a hurdy-gurdy going on there. Again, super props to the cameraman, who's like there's dynamic energy there, but if you just sat a static camera in front of it, I don't think you'd capture it as much. One thing I learned from doing one of our music videos is that you need to amplify your movement tenfold, because you think you're jumping around like a crazy person, but then when you watch the playback, it's like, you know how they say the camera adds 10 pounds? The camera removes like 60% of all of your energy. It just sucks it away from you. And so that's why, you know, these dynamic sweeping camera movements and like little zoom ins and things like that here are super important, especially with a song like this, to sort of match the energy of what you're hearing. If you just have them jumping around, oftentimes it'll just look like it lacks energy. And you just have to take my word for that, because it's one of those things that's hard to understand until you're the guy on screen and you see yourself moving and you're like, wow, I thought I was breaking shit, and I'm really just standing there just grooving out, you know. It's wild. And it's a real problem, because a lot of times you'll have band members that aren't as comfortable expressing themselves through movement. When I play guitar, I have to move. It's part of how I stay in rhythm. You know, I have to sort of bop around and things like that. But, you know, for example, the bass player in my band, he's very much a stand still and focus on his playing thing. And when you put him into a music video, it becomes a little bit more challenging. You got to figure out some way of giving him energy, and you know, not that these guys really need it, but you know, the guys in the band are probably a little bit less active than your typical aggressive band, because they have to be playing such competent music. You know, at some point you've got to make the trade-off of how much jumping around you're going to do compared to whether or not you can play the song effectively, you know. Just really tasty riffs. We'll be right back after these messages. By now, you've probably heard me talk about Enchroma Glasses. Enchroma are an assistive device designed to help people with color blindness, you know, experience color effectively for the first time. And it's a pretty revolutionary technology, and it can be yours on the Enchroma website. Just click the link in the description below. You can do an eye test, find out what sort of color blindness you have, purchase some glasses, and if you use the code CHAOS in the checkout, you'll get 10% off. Thanks, guys. Tell them Primal Chaos sent you. Okay, so how do I sum up this song? Well, first of all, the thing that I've noticed between this and Vortex is that these guys are just masters of syncopated rhythms. You know, it's not so much, there's like a lot of bands get by with like odd time signatures and tempo changes and all that sort of stuff, and these guys do a little bit of that. But what stands out more than anything is their just desire to just stay away from just being locked into a groove. You know, they always seem to, you know, they're playing the notes in between the notes more than the notes themselves. And I really dig that. That's really cool. You know, when towards the end of the song where it sort of gets very blast beaty, there's not much I can talk about, because realistically, there's not much going on there. There's heaps of really cool riffs going on in the background, but it's just overwhelmed by the pace and the tempo, which is how those parts of the songs are supposed to be. But sort of getting back sort of more into, you know, the first few verses and stuff like that, it's just got a really cool sort of almost jazz funk energy, sort of squeezed into that, I guess, metalcore facade, you know. I heard somebody in the comments say they refer to it as jazzcore, and I think there's a little bit of truth to that, you know. The drummer is very jazzy and splashy. He can still obviously do everything that he's required to do for this style of band, but you can see he's definitely rubbing a little bit of flavor on there. And you can also sense that through Eugene's playing as well, the bass player. Obviously, I'm just, the reason I'm name checking everyone is because I'm looking, I put a list up of everybody. Roman is an incredible riff writer, and he does some really cool little licks and things throughout. But overall, this is a band that you don't really want to pick apart too much as separate units. They work really well cohesively together, and that's the kind of energy that they bring. And I think that's kind of why people engage with them, because everybody's firing on all cylinders. I like the concept of the song. I don't know. I assume Tatiana writes the lyrics, and it's you know, it's just a really cool concept and a bit unusual for the genre because it's almost optimistic. Um, and I feel like the default for particularly in the heavy metal genre, the default seems to be, you know, dour kind of concepts and, you know, this, you know, the end is nigh kind of doomsday kind of prophecy stuff. And I really admire the fact that this is a little bit different to that. Overall, I love the energy of the band. Um, you guys have been telling me I really need to check these guys out live, and I absolutely will. In fact, you know what's going to happen. I'm going to fall down a rabbit hole. I'm going to do all of these guys' stuff eventually. Same with Spirit Box. You know, I've done a big chunk of Parkway's catalog. You know, there's a lot to do. I just wish I could do this all day long and just dive deep into the world of extreme vocals and extreme songs. But the fact remains that I can only really knock out 1 or 2 songs every couple of days. And so if you're getting frustrated that I haven't jumped on one of your suggestions, just bear with me. I've made a spreadsheet and a list, and I'm trying to get through as much as I can. But it seems like what you guys want to see most is the songs that are a little bit more viral. You know, so I've fallen down a little bit of a trap of doing a bunch of songs that are kind of expected to do as a reaction, because it works. You know, like you can see in my subscriber count, like last night I expected to maybe hit 315 today, and I'm already at 350. You know, it's people are they seem to be liking what they're seeing and clicking like and subscribe. But you know, the danger is that I'll just keep doing songs that everybody else has reacted to or that, you know, are prominent. So I think what I'm going to have to do is try to make a concerted effort to jump back to, you know, my spreadsheet of songs. Whenever I tell people in the comments, I'll add you to the list. That's the list I'm talking about. But I'm in danger of never really hitting those targets because I'm constantly doing bands like Jinjer that everybody wants to hear everything in their catalog. So yeah, I'll try and make a concerted effort to sort of at least do one every few videos of a song that doesn't seem like it's probably going to be from a more viral background. Because I really do, the reason I'm here is to experience the genre, right? I'm not here to listen to 5 bands, you know, as much as I may want to, because this sounds awesome. So yeah, anyway, thanks for sticking around, guys. Like I said, like and subscribe. If, you know, all of these videos get demonetized, I don't make any money from doing any of this. But if you feel like I brightened your day at all, maybe just click the link in the description, buy me a coffee, and you know, that'll help a little bit anyway. So thanks, guys. Catch you in the next one.